Hello, hello, fearless listeners. Are you ready for another episode of Let Fear Bounce? It's the podcast that's all about conquering challenges and facing our fears. I'm your host, Kim Lengling, and each week we'll dive into inspiring stories, expert insights, and practical tips to help you turn your fear into your greatest ally. So sit back, relax, grab that cup of coffee, and let's discover how to make fear our bouncing board towards a life filled with endless possibilities right here on Let Fear Bounce. Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Let Fear Bounce. This is Kim Lengling, your host, and I am very pleased that you are deciding to spend just a small part of your day with myself today and my special guest, Ernest Ellender, PhD. He is known as the Black Belt Trauma Coach. And he's got quite the background, folks, and I've been looking forward to having him on as my guest. He was born and raised along the bayous of South Louisiana. He attended Jesuit high school in New Orleans before pursuing his higher education, California, New York, and abroad in Florence, Italy. He trained heavily in the martial arts and earned his black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in 2008 before starting his own martial arts academy in his hometown. Now, he transitioned from clinical psychology to life coaching in 2022 and now draws from his personal experiences in psychology, martial arts, and entrepreneurial endeavors to offer coaching programs for local and online clients. And in his own words, folks, life is too short to remain unhappy, unsure, and unfulfilled. Ernest, welcome to Let Fear Bounce.
Thank you very much. I'm so excited to be here.
And you're also an author, and I did not mention that. So, goodness, that was remiss of me. He is also an author, folks, and his book just came out in March of 2024. And the name of the book is This is How We Heal from Painful Childhoods, a practical guide for healing past intergenerational stress and trauma. Wow. So let's jump right into the book. I want to know
Excellent.
why the book came about and when did you start thinking I need to get a book out about this topic?
Oh man, how it came about was well in graduate school when I started seeing clients there, and we would just hear some of these stories of one individual experiencing what I considered it was hard for me to comprehend how one person could experience so much trauma in one lifetime, in one within one family, and it just begged the question to. I mean, it became a in flashing neon question to me, which is how is it possible? How is it possible that one person or one family can sustain that many that that many different types of trauma? And so, in my studies and everything undergraduate, I'm sorry, in the graduate studies, I was trying to answer that. And when I was looking at the research, a lot of the research was more focused on like larger ethnic groups and societal groups instead of the individual family unit. And so I'm kind of a obsessive brain person. So I really love challenging details, and I like to understand things, and I just can't stop until I do. And so it just started this, I mean, it's been 2 decades since that question popped in my head. And so after about a decade of that, of uh, researching and studying, working with clients, doing continuing education courses that gave some clues to it. I started my own curriculum that built into these 13 different rules that would help clients that I found would resonate and really speak to the issues they were experiencing. And I ran that for about 5 years, but it grew to 20 because they kept having these other variables. It's such a complex question that it required a lot of detailed answers. So it grew to 20. When it got to 20, I'm like, okay, that now I feel like it's real, it's realistic, it's functional, and it's time to share it with the world. And I just didn't realize it would take 6 or 7 years to 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 write that and get it actually published and out there. Um, but yeah, that's how it got started with me just listening to these people describe just again to me. I didn't have that type of traumatizing upbringing, so it was hard for me to comprehend how it's possible.
that was going to be one of my questions. My next question actually was, had you, prior to your schooling and education, had you experienced any trauma in your life to have as any foundation as a background?
Initially, it actually relates to one of the rules, which is it's not a competition. Trauma is
Right.
just bad and sad, and initially throughout the first years of doing this, I was saying that, my life, my childhood, I remember very fondly. And, I still do have two absolutely wonderful, loving, affectionate, generous parents. And I mean, most of the trouble, most of the difficulty I encountered was self-inflicted. It was,
Right.
we're going out there, but then, after I stopped, as I was working through these rules with clients and I practice what I preach, try to live the rules myself, I would apply them to myself. And I realized, maybe I had a little bit of rosy-colored lens on my glasses about looking at my own childhood. My family has a bit of addiction in it, a bit of substance, alcohol and whatnot. Um, and when my dad sobered when I was about 10 years old, like those were childhood struggles. So it wasn't that, a trauma in the sense that I was used to hearing these just horrible stories, but they were childhood stresses that produced different adult habits that are not helpful. Like I myself am a bit of a people pleaser, and so that falls under like kind of overindulging other people, and that's not a healthy dynamic. And that's caused me a lot of trouble in my adulthood. So by trying to follow these 20 rules, it gave me more insight into the struggles that were definitely there that
I
still need to
find
be
I
tended
find it
to.
interesting. Like you had mentioned, well, you may have been wearing some rose-colored glasses, but when we're younger, and also that generation, like, and I think you and I are probably around the same age. When we were younger, it was almost a different culture,
Very much so.
you know, and
Very much so.
so yeah, and the parents, the way things were handled was much, much, much different. And we just grew up, in the school of tough knocks. You know? That okay, so,
Yeah.
maybe mom and dad are arguing a lot or dad drinks too much and but as a little one, unless it was very, super severe, I know in my childhood, there was times it was just like, well, I'm gonna go outside and play. And that was pretty much my mindset. I'm just gonna go outside and play then, you know? And then, but
Yes.
looking back, you're like, wow, that really did influence on how I look at the world today. But it took an adult's
Yeah.
mind and eyes to see that. Is that how it was with you?
Absolutely. When I see like my nephews and nieces now, like they're functioning, like they're 15 and 16 and 17 years old, and their activities are just so different than what we were doing back then. I mean, we had free run of the neighborhood, of the swamps and byland. We take the boat out and guns and go do we drink and shoot and do whatever. We were 15 years old, you know,
I know. I know
and
just what you mean.
it's just very different now. So
Indeed, yes. Yeah, it's interesting to look back on that though, from an adult's perspective, because now that well, I like to say I'm an adult, but sometimes I don't feel like one. My mindset might not be
indeed.
adult-like all the time, but looking back, I think, "Oh, wow. Yeah, you were a tough little bugger, Kim," you know? And
Yes, and
you don't realize what you went through, at least I didn't, until you're looking back. Or maybe, maybe you're in therapy and, that comes out in
mhm.
therapy and your counselor points it out and you're like, oh, never looked at it or thought of it that way. It's very interesting to look back and see how your mindset was shaped from a young person into how you view the world and how you interact with people today. What was one thing that, if you can remember, that may have happened when you were younger that you can look now, plus with your professional background, you can look and say, "That really shaped how I deal with people in my adulthood."
How I deal with people. Oh man. Uh, wow. I guess I don't know if there's any one in particular thing that pops up. There's a consistency of my mom's patience with communicating with us. Where there was just she would sit there and just talk. Now sometimes they were hours long lectures, one way conversations, but it was so just this long format of sitting and talking about these things, like figuring it out until we know what the rules were. But at the base of it was always this understanding that, well, we can figure it out and we could talk about it, but the rules are rules and there are consequences of rules. So this, and I guess that was a wonderful double message of, we can be there for one another and we have to deal with reality. And that's definitely impacted me as an adult. And it's a lot of that message is within the book, as far as understanding it. We really want to have empathy with one another, even for people who are harmful towards us. And at the same time, rules are rules. We have to deal with reality.
Right.
So
Yeah.
sometimes those were hard lessons. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to set back. You can still care about people, but you might have to set some boundaries at times.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Now, you had mentioned, well, I actually had mentioned in your bio, you're no longer practicing psychology. You dropped all of that to go into life coaching in 2022. What made you, and that's a big change. What made you want to make that change in your life?
There's a number of reasons, but as it relates to what I want to do most, which is coach people through how their histories, their traumas have impacted them, and have provided obstacles to being more fearless. That's why I enjoyed it. I'm really glad to be on your show, Let Fear Balance. It's like, okay, well, how do we do that? And the obstacles that are placed in front of people because of their childhood are tremendous. And it requires some education and patience and slowing down to work on them. It requires a bit of work there. And that's my favorite realm. It's complex, it's challenging, I love it. And as a psychologist, we're kind of ruled by the insurance world. So here in town, what I was getting is just general people coming in. So I was basically like functioning as a general practitioner when all I want to do is specialize. And I want to practice, I want to see clients that are seeking that kind of specialty. And to do that, it's mostly going to be, I think, online, accessing a larger population. And then also wanted to do a lot more writing. So to do that, well, it's a ridiculous amount of paperwork and whatnot, and keeping up with all the insurance stuff. So life coaching is very direct. It's much more simplified, and it's, again, lets me specialize in what I want to do, the clients I want to see.
You're in control of it.
Yeah. And there's also, go even a little step further, when people are paying, however, $1,000 a month for their insurance premiums, or $500, whatever, and they're paying $10 or $20 in copay, there's a very different level of ambition or whatnot. Oftentimes, someone who's not covered by insurance, they're paying directly for those services. It's often a very ambitious person who wants to get a lot done in these sessions because it's not kind of paid for mostly, or it feels almost free by insurance standards.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've talked to like medical doctors and stuff like that. And unfortunately, in the world we live in, insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies seem to be the ones ruling everything.
Oh, there is a mass exodus of basically man, I think it's somewhere around 2/3 of the coaching people, like coaches, are former therapists. And it's the
I'll
same
be
in physical.
darned. That 2/3?
It's up there for, I believe so, somewhere around that.
Wow.
I wouldn't want to quote me on that, but I believe that's it. Ballpark.
Yeah.
And you see the same in a lot of, like my sister-in-law is a physical therapist, and she's moving to direct pay also, because they've just made it so difficult to deliver actual quality therapy.
Deliver quality therapy. Indeed. That's what I've heard from the medical doctors too. They're like, we can't treat and care for our patients the way we were trained and want to.
It's insane. Yes.
Well, it is.
It's just getting a little too, yes.
It's getting a little too much. And I know we're going a little off track here, but I think we're the only country on this planet that is run like that.
It's gone too far.
It has gone too far. Okay, moving on.
Yes, agreement.
Moving on. So your book, it came out in March of this year. So it's been out for a little bit now. How's that doing for you?
Uh, all things considered, it's going very well. I'm in this crash course understanding of marketing is a necessary part of it. You don't just click publish and then suddenly everybody knows about it. People have to know about it.
What a
So,
magical world that would be, huh?
oh, it would be if it was just rated on its value to society and then that was just an automatic process, that'd be great. I really put a lot into making it real in quality, but that's not. So I'm kind of learning that part, but I had a wonderful book launch, lots of family, friends support and all, and it's getting great reviews and whatnot. So it's moving that direction. I just have to keep doing the work to get it there. Keep doing the work. I know it's a lifestyle of good habits that make us successful eventually.
That is. And it's on how you see what your level of success is.
Yes. Yeah.
Listen to me talking to the psychologist. That's something I had to do for myself. As you said, you're doing the marketing and you're just now you've just recently entered into this realm and you've realized, wow, I have to do all of this stuff on my own on the back end. And it's a lot of work, folks, for you out there who are not authors. It's a lot of work. It really, really is a lot of work on the back end, and it's thankless. It's a thankless job. you know,
I think you've
hours
learned
and
that
hours and
lesson.
hours.
I think you've learned that lesson 8 or 10 times now. How many
Indeed, yes.
publications do you have?
Yeah, over and over and over again. But each time you learn something new, and I don't think that there would be an author, any author ever, unless they truly wanted to get their message out into the world, knowing that it's going to land in front of the eyes that was meant to read it, especially with books like yours. I'm a nonfiction author as well. So with books like mine, there's messages in there that can be helpful to people. And if you didn't have a passion for it, knowing it's going to land when it's supposed to land in front of the eyes of who's supposed to read it. So that's what I tell myself, and my level of success is for me only. I can't compare myself to someone else, and I certainly will not compete with anyone else. I'm on my own journey. And that took me a while because I was like, oh, well, I look at another book that's similar, kind of like mine, and they're doing so much better. And oh my gosh, look at that. And their ratings are so much. And then I'm like, wait a minute, why are you comparing? You're not that person. Your message is not their your message is your message. So you can't compare, or don't, and certainly don't try and compete. Have you found yourself, because you're new at this, so have you found yourself looking in things and going, oh man, if mine, and if only I had, or gosh, I wish.
I have had to stop looking at the competition of that top tier of these guys who have 60 and 70,000 reviews on their book.
I know.
It produces such deep envy and jealousy in me that I had to
I
just stop
know.
looking at it and do exactly what you're saying, which is to focus on the goal. What's the goal? The goal is providing a message that I would go further than what you say and say that can save lives. I mean, the message that you're pushing out with your podcast and the books that I looked up that you'd written is one of hope and inspiration, hope and inspiration, hope and inspiration. And I know because of the people that I worked with that when they've been like basically brainwashed with negativity and depressing or just fear-based thinking, that messaging is life-saving. It can be life-saving and encouraging in those moments that they need it. And so, when you have a podcast where they know they can go to and hear these, they can hear that positive brainwashing to help wash out some of that old garbage. It's really important. And what my book, I hope my book offers is the how-to, like these are some of the technical skills needed. So that's where mine comes in, that I hope that it offers that. So my goal is to have people be able to see it and see whether that does offer the details of how they can be successful and how they can foster and engage in habits that produce more hope for them. You engage in this, you do the step 1, step 2, step 3, you do that and it's successful. And then it invites both hope, and confidence to do it again. So educate self, experiment, success, repeat.
Yeah.
So
Like
yes,
when you
that's a
said
much more.
wash everything clean, I've had all of the cycles of a washing machine going on in my head as you're talking.
Oh
Wash,
gosh,
rinse, spin,
yes.
think about it. It's a good little metaphor there.
So I've had to focus on that process, keep your eye on the goal instead, and stop looking at the competition.
Yeah.
Stop looking at the yeah,
Well, because their journey's not yours.
absolutely, yes,
They
that's
don't
right.
write like you. They don't have the same audience as you. Maybe it might overlap at some, but I mean, there's a lot of, there's a lot of mental things I had to keep reminding myself of. But first and foremost, I had to keep telling myself, Kim, this is your journey. You're not on theirs. And good for them
Yes.
that they have such a massive audience. You're just not there yet. Yet.
Absolutely, yeah. And when we get competitive, it's like I don't want them to not succeed because they're all writing books in the same genre. Of course, yeah, I do want all of them to succeed because no one book is going to be the answer to everyone's problem, and no one podcast can
Right.
be the answer to. It's a flurry, it's a constancy of exposing oneself to different educational components and trainings and positive mindset. It's a barrage of these things over decades that leads to successfully healing from childhood stuff. So I don't want them to not succeed. I do want them to succeed. I want to succeed with them. I want us to all to
That's right.
raise that level, right?
I was reading a while back that the percentage of authors that, like the big names in the world, like the Jack Canfields and the Stephen Kings, the really Nora Roberts, Danielle Steele, all those really famous authors, is less than 8% of all of the authors in the world.
Oh my goodness, yes. Yes.
So, you have to look at it also realistically.
Yeah.
When you're putting
Uh,
your book out there, you're not a James Patterson or a Jack Canfield, and
Yes.
it's interesting. I've talked to folks that have just putting a book out and they're going, well, my book is for everyone. I'm like, no one's book is for everyone. You need to hammer down a little bit tighter into who your folks are to help you get the word out to exactly who it is that needs to hear it. It's a lesson in humility being an author as
Cool.
well.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Luckily, I've had lots of training in how to be humble in the martial arts.
Yeah, indeed,
Once you
yes.
once you get beat down by enough, young and smaller people and women, once you get truly beat down, and you're like, okay, you got me. It you learn and maintain humility on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It's one of
Yeah.
the better parts about training martial
And
arts regularly.
I know that has helped you, probably in all different aspects of life, your martial arts training. I know that
Oh yes.
my military background has done the same for me and has formed a lot of my mindset and how I see things and deal with people and view the world. I also had practiced some martial arts for quite a few years. Mine was called Puklon Jiminji.
Huh,
And it was a combat
not
Vietnam
familiar with that.
veteran who I think it translates loosely to my body is my weapon. It's a fighting technique. It's a fighting as in if someone attacks you, you will put them down and they won't get back up. That's what I was
Yes.
training in. Um,
Outstanding.
it was very intense, but he's a combat Vietnam vet, and I was going through some stuff, and I said, I want to be able to, I want to learn this. Can you teach me this? And I also want my daughter to learn it as well. And so he was teaching his wife, myself, and my daughter in my backyard. He would just come to my house once a week in
Oh,
my
awesome.
backyard. And he's a little guy. He's short, just a little guy. And I'm thinking, he's so small. And he was just throwing my butt all over the backyard. And I got to he said one day, he goes, when you get to the point where you can throw my butt across your backyard, I'll know I've done my job well. And it took a while, but there came that day where I threw his butt across the backyard and he landed with a woof. and stood up slowly and went, yeah, yeah, kid, I think I got you where I want you now. But that
Oh,
really,
fantastic.
that discipline, that mindset that all of that brings in is so beneficial in all aspects of your life.
Absolutely. I mean, there's an understanding of the need for repetition and kind of that's one of the things that both military and martial arts training offers us that uh, a lot of people didn't get when they were, let's say, in a neglectful childhood home, which is the consistency of necessary repetition to become proficient in any kind of skill. So if they're just not paying attention or they try something for a week or two, but they don't do the several years worth of it, then they just get like a short attention span. So there's just this being acclimated to repetition, kind of the boring parts of learning that are necessary, sort of thing, in addition to just all the other wonderful life skills that it offers, how to interact with others, how to be part of the team, how to self-care. With all the martial arts training, you have to learn how to take care of yourself and how to build your body up instead of break it down. There's just so many things to learn, and the martial arts lifestyle offers us.
And I think it's very I think kids, if the parents are able to, I think they should all enroll their kids in some sort of form of that, to be
Oh,
honest. I truly,
as
I
a
do.
martial, yes, as a martial arts school owner, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
You
A
know,
dear friend of mine has a school here as well where I live, and he just watched one of his students graduate college, and he had had that student since they were like 7 years old, and he stuck with it the whole time.
yes,
So it's, him, for him as the teacher, as the master, it was something special. And I'm sure that you experienced that as well with your students in your school.
absolutely. Just about a month ago, I just saw that one of my kids was the first. It was the first of the kids from my jiu-jitsu school who started with me as an adult. Just got his black belt. This is, so congratulations, Evan Pepper. He got
That's
his.
exciting stuff. My gosh, and
Oh,
what
it's
an
unbelievable.
accomplishment.
Can you imagine being? I don't even know. I think he's 18 or 19 years old now, something like that. 19 years old, black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and all those leadership skills, and he teaches at the school where he's training. It's wow. In my estimation, a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu is roughly, it's at least a master's degree, but probably like a PhD. That's how long it takes, how much effort it is to achieve that. So he's not
And what
even.
an awesome achievement for that young man, because that can only help him along his way.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on getting him through that too, because you played no small part, I'm sure.
Thank you very much. So excited, yes.
That is exciting. That is exciting. Okay, so here's a question for you. What do you fear?
Oh my goodness. I just fear of failure to get to impact the world in a positive way, to continue to do so. I want this to be something that benefits lots of people, and so I fear it not doing so. It just kind of disappears into nothingness.
So a fear of
I like
failure.
the idea. Yes, yes. Feel a failure to help people. Yes,
Right.
yes.
I wonder if we all have that. I have that too. And I never like to think of it as failure, because this is my
Yeah.
mindset. Failure to me, and this is only for me, folks. This is my brain. Failure to me, I will look at it at times, which I know is wrong and not rational. Failure to me is a weakness. And I'll be like,
Okay.
Kim. So do you have, and I know you're a psychologist, but that doesn't mean that you don't have your own issues and your own stuff.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
what is one thing that you had that kind of like the example I just gave, where, I'll look at myself in the mirror and go, Kim, oh my, that is not failure. Come on, you know better. So
Oh,
what is something that you might have that you still carry with you, and you're like, darn it, and you set it down, you leave it behind, but then you go back and you pick it back up again? Do you have something like that in your life that you have?
I mean, I think, yeah, yeah, as a life coach, again, trying to like live according to the rules and, practice what we preach sort of thing. And so there's always I guess, fear of failure in my own life or what have you. In my, like, for example, in relationships, everybody has blind spots. Doesn't matter how much I study the science of blind spots, I still have blind spots. So it's on my brain not seeing the big picture or missing these parts of the picture, and that's been really difficult for me at times.
Okay. Well, that's
You know?
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to be more very clear, when I go to therapy with an ex-girlfriend, like go to therapy, I go to therapy with this person, and we're sitting there, and to me, it's a little embarrassing. Like, well, oh, I'm supposed to be this person who knows these things about psychology, and yet here I am because I'm failing in this relationship, and I can't. And then it's hard for me to feel like sometimes that I have things to offer people when I'm failing in this area of my life.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'd work on a bit of that language. It's not failure, like you said. It's not. Is that failure? Is that a learning process? Is how do we handle that?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Continue
I'm
to.
like, well, I kind of sometimes I'll be like, well, I'm not going to look at that as a failure. And if it was, I failed forward.
eh, What do we do with it? Yes, yes, yes. What do you
I
do
look
with
at it
it?
as it's a lesson. Okay. Wow. That sucked. I guess I'll do it
Painful
different next
lesson.
time.
Painful lesson, yes, and yet a
Yeah.
lesson nonetheless.
Painful
Yes.
lesson. Goodness. Okay. So give the listeners, I don't know, you said you've got in your book, there's 20.
Yes.
Share a couple specifically of dealing with their fears. Maybe it's fear of maybe they have a terminal illness and that has brought in a tremendous amount of fear. Maybe it's fear of losing their job, um, the loss of a relationship, anything like that. They're grieving the loss of a loved one and fear comes in. How am I supposed to do all of this on my own? Do you have a couple things that you can share with the folks that might be in those situations? Um, how they can, that's something that they can grab onto, something that might be, a little bit motivating for them.
Motivating form. Uh, let's say, I mean, right off, just again, my book, I kind of focus on the how to, the details of whatnot. So I love understanding Mother Nature. So when we're dealing with any of these very real dangers or kind of fake dangers, dangers that are in our head, kind of modern day threats that are causing anxiety, regardless of what it is, we're going to function better if we can do so from a place of more calm. And if we get into our rest and digest mode where we can think more clearly, we're going to function better. We're going to make better decisions. We're going to be more proactive. We're going to be more creative. And so practicing the skill of self-soothing and self-care, uh, being able to control breathing, muscle relaxation, kind of get good at those skills, as well as the self-talk, like training our brain to understand what's dangerous and what's not. Like right now, I guess I'm a little anxious. I'm a little nervous because I'm on, being recorded, and this will go out to thousands of people, hopefully tens of thousands of people, right? And so I'm anxious, and that's my body telling me that there's something dangerous. When in reality, this is a modern day quote unquote threat, and in reality, I am absolutely safe. There's no way that you can reach through this computer and injure me. I'm I'm safe, but my body's natural biological system is perceiving some kind of message of danger. So when we can slow down and practice soothing ourselves and develop that skill of breathing and really relaxing to the point where we can think more clearly, then I can answer questions better. I can do better in the relationship, do better for myself, do better for you. It's just all positively impacted by learning how to slow down and calm myself.
In
That
with the
requires
good
much
and
more
out with the
skills.
bad. That's how I always say, in with the good, inhale, exhale, out with the bad.
Absolutely. And that would kind of speak to the in the moment thing of just like the very in the moment natural response to perceived dangers.
Right.
And then there's kind of higher level concepts of uh, educating ourselves about whatever area we're being challenged in.
Well, and I think for like a lot of folks that maybe no one has sought to speak to anyone, to sought therapy or anything, but most folks have heard of the fight or flight, and our bodies go through that a lot, more regular than people I think they even realize. That fight or
Constantly.
flight response,
Yes.
it's ingrained in us, and for some folks, it's at a little bit of a higher level depending upon their background.
Absolutely. And when we expand it to fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, we have four different survival responses. And just educating ourselves about which one of those we tend to, we all are capable of doing all four, but you can rank order them basically as far as what your history and what your biology and what your anatomy has kind of uh, placed as your primary survival response. So some people fight first and then freeze next, or they fight and then run. So you can rank order them, and just being aware of that, learning that that about you, about your own self, can help in that process of learning how to calm myself down and how to maintain that calm and be again
I
be
find all
successful
of
in
that
relationships.
just fascinating, learning as I go, and learning why my responses or my body responds the way it does to certain situations, or, as I live with PTSD, learning how flashbacks impact me and why they come,
Yes,
learning about triggers. I mean, all of that over the years has just been fascinating to me because I don't fear it, and I don't want to just, poo-poo it away and shove it in a closet. It's like, no, okay, so this is what's messing with me. All right, I want to learn about it. And then I want to be able to see it and recognize it before it sneaks up behind me and grabs me again. That's how I see
yes,
it. I want to be able to stop it in
yes,
its tracks and say, not today. And that takes
yeah.
work. Takes a little bit of work, a little bit of time, but it's worth it. It's
A
definitely
lot of work, huh?
it is a lot of work. But also I feel that it's strength building.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the addictive part of that lifestyle of doing that work, which I think includes building skills and learning stuff through education. So it's education and training. That's two separate things. We can educate ourselves about stuff, but then we want to turn some of that education into actual skills that empower us to be just stronger, more resilient, stronger, more protective against future traumas and whatnot. But it does require a lot of work. Got to read, experiment, do the repetition of skills to get good at it, and then just keep doing that.
Right. And then you can help others with what you've learned, either by, maybe it's just listening to someone, being there to listen. Maybe it's,
Yes,
you're actually leading by example and you don't even realize it, So all those skills that you learn, and
abs.
the breathing, the self-care, like you mentioned, which is huge. For me, it's getting outside. That's where I breathe. That's where I can breathe the best. And I am outside
Yes.
as often as I can be. And my dog and I take a lot of
Well,
long walks, but what is, and this is going to be the last question here, and then we're going to wrap up. But what is one thing that you do for self-care that really just keeps you grounded each day?
oh man, yeah. Well, each day each day has been slow down to speed up. One of my rules, rule number four is yeah, slow down to speed up. So there's that process of just slowing down and taking each thing uh, on its own terms. That one practice of doing that daily has been very grounding and wonderful to me. It's bringing that mindfulness kind of
Now, do you have to be in
concept.
do you do that just wherever you're standing, or do you have
Yes.
like a room, or like for me, I go outside?
Yeah, wherever I'm standing, just slow down. As soon as there's tensions in the room for whatever reason, whether I'm in my room by myself or with other people, that's the trigger for me to slow down, look around, get into thinking mode instead of reacting to it. So it takes a while to train that, but it's been just such an amazing way to slow down and focus on what's the most healthy choices to make right now.
I have
So
learned,
that,
I laugh and say, yeah, I've learned to bite my tongue, but really I've just learned to sit there and take a deep breath
yeah.
and not
Hmm.
engage with
Yes,
negativity.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's the daily thing. And then on a weekly thing is my weightlifting weights. I do this one, I have a lot of body issues from scoliosis and from overtraining, and I busted up my body. I've had a bunch of surgery. So now what I find is the most beneficial self-care for me is I lift weights, my little brother's strength training place, and just do some back squats and some things like that that is the best self-care that I can do for my body. It boosts my confidence. It reduces my chronic pain. It keeps me functioning and able to do my martial arts. I went through the effort of learning how to do it correctly, so that it builds it up, and that very much keeps me both grounded and then also kind of like it keeps me at a minimal level of confidence where I feel good. I know that I'm at least on a very basic, you know, anatomical level, that strong. Not as strong as these other whatever guys, but I know that compared to where I was a few years ago, the consistency of doing that weekly self-care, I'm a good 60% stronger than I was a few years ago. So that's very confidence inspiring, and it means the world to me weekly.
Yeah, I get that. I walk 4 miles a day with my dog.
Oh, fantastic.
But I had to work up to that,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
and I had lung surgery uh 7 months ago, and that just kicked my butt.
Oof.
And I'm a very active person, and I wasn't used to having my butt kicked. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way. So
Yeah.
slow but sure, I had to work myself back up, and it took a long time, and my patience was wearing thin, and I'm like, Kim, just breathe. You're still here and you're moving. Be thankful, you know.
Yes.
So it was, that whole physical thing aspect, it really is helpful getting, knowing what your body can do. And you don't have to, again, another thing is, don't compare yourself to others and don't compete with other people, because you're on your own journey for that as well. And I just, for me, movement, because I'm a very active person. I have to be. I can't sit still for too long. You sound like you're the same kind of person. That movement is very, very important, I think, for everyone, no matter where you're at. um Okay,
Yes.
we're gonna
Yes.
wrap up because we've been going a little longer than normal here, and that's
Oh,
fine.
wonderful.
No, that's fine. This has
Yeah.
been such a great conversation, and oh my gosh, there's so much more we could talk about. But at this point, before we wrap up, I want to ask you to please toss out a nugget of hope to the listeners, something that they can just tuck away in their pocket and carry with them for the rest of the day, and maybe even share it with someone else to keep that ripple of kindness going.
Oh,
So, what would your nugget of hope today be?
let's see. I guess I would say it with enough self-education and experimentation, there there's not maybe, there is positive progression. There is movement. There is healing to be had. So that's like just a scientific fact. Educate yourself, then surround yourself by some good support system, and start trying these things that are recommended. It will happen. It will move up. It will progress.
Don't give up.
Don't give up. And then again, just go back to it. More education, more training, more success. It's there waiting. It's there. It's
Awesome.
there.
You need to make a t-shirt of that. It's there.
There we go.
T-shirt, coffee mug, whatever you want. It's there. Healing. It's there. Healing. Dot, dot, dot. It's there.
It's there. It's waiting for you. Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Doesn't that just make you want to
Do it.
jump up and down?
Yes.
Yeah, you look like it. Yes, I feel
If I
like
wasn't
jumping up and
hooked
down.
into all this electronic stuff, then yeah, there we go.
Knock stuff all over. Oh, well, thank you so much, Ernest, for being my guest today. This has actually been a wonderful conversation. I've truly enjoyed it, and I hope that you've enjoyed your time.
Very much so. I've thoroughly enjoyed, and I've enjoyed listening to some of your podcasts and getting ready for this. And again, I just love the constant message of we will find out, we will see it, and we're going to keep brainwashing ourselves with positive stuff to flush out the negative stuff,
That's right. That's
keep it
right.
going.
We're going to keep on keeping on is what we're going to do. By
Yes.
golly, because we all are here for a reason and we all have a purpose. And even if you haven't found it yet, it's out there waiting for you. Just like you said, it's
Keep
out
going.
there. It's waiting.
Sweet.
Awesome sauce. Thank you once again for being my guest on Let Fear Bounce. And everybody out there listening in today, thank you so much for spending a part of your day with myself and Ernest, because I know that your time is very valuable. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This is Kim Lengling, the host of Let Fear Bounce. Everybody be well, stay well, and be blessed. And that is a wrap, my fearless friends. Thanks for bouncing along with me on another episode of Let Fear Bounce. I hope you're feeling a bit motivated and ready to take on any challenge that might come your way in the coming days. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode of Let Fear Bounce. Tune in each week for your dose of inspiration from my amazing guests from all over the world. So until next time, keep bouncing forward and stay fearless, my friends. Everybody be well, stay well, and above all, be blessed.